What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And yeah, we are currently 18 weeks away from the first show. 18 weeks out in prep now. And what you just saw is me posing. So today's a rest day. And yeah, I actually decided that I really wanted to do a posing call with Christian. He's a very, very good posing coach. He's worked with my clients and done some amazing things for them, for people that have literally never competed before and had no idea how to pose. Now, you know, if I'm a pro, competed loads using posing coaching, that is your sign, guys. Especially if you're new to competing, use a posing coach. But yeah, it was good. So definitely learned some things for my physique and, you know, how to present my physique as well as possible. This is a thing. You can be very experienced as a bodybuilder, but you can still learn lots about how you can present your particular physique in the best way and get more out of it. And that's what Christian was very good at doing, is like looking at my physique specifically and thinking, okay, you need to do this, because it's one thing just learning how to pose generally, but it's about learning how to pose around your physique. So that was good. Did that, and then just the usual rest day, been doing some work and all that stuff. But the actual purpose of this video today, well, this evening for me talking to you guys now, it's going to be about how to manage training volume in prep and how to manage your volume when you're trying to get shredded. You know, when do we take away sets? When do we add sets? How much volume can we cope with? When do we maybe change the intensity a little bit? When do we do devolume? When do we deload? When do sets actually need to be taken away? Is it done straight away in a deficit? Is it done later on? How do we run that process? And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm also going to make my meal 5. It's actually the evening, so I'm going to put these on. I took them off at the start of the video because I don't want to scare people away. But yeah, we're going to wear these because it's very late. I'm unwinding, I'm chilling out. But yeah, just before we get into it, I guess I'll just touch on kind of my prep. So I actually hit a low yesterday, 79.65 kilograms. So I started prep at 88 kilograms. The lightest I was last prep in 2022 was 69.9 kilograms. At the Natural Olympia, I was 72 kilograms when carved up. So that gives you a bit of a perspective of where we're at. We're getting to the fun part. We're definitely seeing the physique come to life, which obviously you saw me pose. And I still feel good. Food's been dropped quite assertively recently, and I still feel great. Like, I feel fine. Like, this has been the easiest prep so far by a mile, and I'm just really enjoying it. So yeah, 18 weeks out from the pro debut. Not much else to talk about that right now. It's just pretty simple stuff, and it's all going well. But yeah, I'm going to start making meal 5, and I'm going to talk to you about how to manage training volume. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get the clips up from what you're about to see. It's going to start running now. Is my push day. So you're going to see me hitting push, and you're going to get understanding of that session, because we're going to talk about that session specifically when it actually starts playing. Okay, so there's been a little bit of a technical error where the video won't play on my phone. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a meal, and I'm going to talk for the time of the video, of the clips. So you can watch them, you can see me training push. This was a very, very good push session, like really, really good. I actually like regained a lost rep on the flat press, and that was after it dropped off for a while. I was so happy to see that progression, because it's like it dropped for a bit and then it came back. And that's what you will find. Sometimes your performance can be very up and down. So don't be surprised if like you find that essentially when you're going through prep, you'll see a drop off, and then you think, oh, I'm getting weaker, I need to go lighter. And sometimes maybe you do. Sometimes maybe the form isn't where it needs to be. But if you stay at that number for a bit, eventually you might notice the progressions come back, and then you actually would have held the performance for a while. So that number on the flat mega mass press was the same number as when I was 88 kilos. But it was introduced at the start of prep pretty much. So there's been some adaptations occurring which have allowed me to stay really strong for it. But to be doing that is so good, and it's because it's such a stable movement. And I started using more ownership into the stretch and just not like using elasticity as much. And I've got more efficient at that process. So I started on the Nautilus shoulder press, which you're watching right now. That is moving really well as well. Very stable environment, really, really good. and then went on to the incline fly, and then the mega mass press, which was obviously a very successful set. So one thing that I've been doing recently in my sessions, especially the last couple of weeks, is taking a set here and there away after a good amount of time sticking to the same volume. So at the start, you go into prep, you're running, let's take you've got two areas to think about volume. You've got your bigger lifts and you've got your smaller lifts, and they're different. You can do more through the smaller lifts, 100%. The crossover of fatigue is going to be considerably less through an isolation movement. So when you do a push down, how much of a challenge to recovery you're going to take from doing that push down that's going to take away from your ability to recover your pecs, your delts, and all that stuff into the next push session? Not much. It's not going to change much realistically, because it's such a low fatigue in movement. It's not going to take as much from your overall global recovery, which sounds like a very technical phrase, but it just means like overall, right? Like think about like systemic fatigue recovery across your whole body versus just thinking about, okay, my tricep recovery. So that's the first thing you need to think about. Isolations we can tolerate more. So when people say, oh, low volume is the way, low volume is king, I think that is true in a lot of cases, but you're going to have those weaker body parts. Like someone's got really weak triceps and they can't get strong for it. You add more volume, you actually get stronger. And that's because you just needed to give a bit more attention to that area because it's weak. And that's where the one set per exercise doesn't work, or the top set, backward set approach. So you need to be aware of where you actually need to use volume as a tool to drive stimulus upwards over time, as opposed to relying on just performance, because we can't always rely on performance. For me, my lateral raises were stuck for a long period of time. I could not progress them. They were so stubborn. And I used to do 2 sets on the exercise. I then upped it to 5 on the same exercise. And when I did that, not straight away, I did 3, then 4, then 5. Performance flew. Like I got stronger because I was just giving it more attention compared to other body parts, which is what you need to think about. So if you're thinking, so we're just down the isolation topic for now. If you're thinking like, okay, how much volume do I do in my isolations in a deficit? Do I take it down or not? That is probably one of the first things that can stay. That's like the first thing that you know can stay the same as you enter the deficit, because how much glycogen are you really burning from a push down and stuff like that? Not much. So you've added the volume up in the surplus to grow. Just keep it the same in the deficit at the start and see how you go, because the earlier you are in a diet, the less that needs to change. You go into a big deficit, you stay in that deficit, you don't need high days, you don't need to change your training volume. The extremities are very low. You're not in a you're not in a position where your body can't cope with the deficit anymore. Okay, even if you're in a big deficit, you can handle it. Why? Because we've still got a lot of body fat available. So our recovery is still good, and our ability to keep quality high in the session is still high. We're not noticing those severe drop-offs. You're not super insulin sensitive. The leaner you get, the quicker you roll through food. So you will notice you'll flatten off quicker in the session. And that's where you now need to think, okay, maybe my volume is too high. So you don't need to think about that process at the start. So you go into the start of your deficit, you run the exact same volume for your isolations, 100%, okay? Now, is there anything that I would suggest taking volume away from immediately? Only if it's something that's a big lift, like a big lift that you really pushed hard in the growing phase and was like, for example, a hinge. Let's say you're doing 3 sets on a hinge. That's probably going to have to come down. You're not going to get away with that in a deficit, realistically. You will know if you feel like when you were in the surplus, you were pushing the limit, really pushing the threshold of recovery. Like you were really on that fine line and you were almost going into session sore, but you could still perform. That's where you need to think, okay, those bigger lifts, if there is maybe 2 sets on that lift, maybe just take 1 away, but I wouldn't do it straight away, okay? It's going to be the first thing that can be adjusted, but you need to, again, wait for the science. But those are the sort of things you need to think about first, not the isolations. So the bigger lifts take away if you notice that there are problems. So when we talk about problems, so this is my Greek yogurt. What do I mean by that? What do I mean about problems? So there's two ways to think about it with recovery, okay? If your recovery is awful in terms of session to session, like DOMS, soreness, so you're going into session sore, that's a problem. So you need to think about your recovery into the next session. That's the first thing. Can you recover into that session? The other thing to think about is the quality of the session itself. And now I'd actually think this is more important, especially because it relates to being in a deficit way more, because your energy will deplete as you go through your session in a deficit, right? That's not an issue when you're in a surplus. You don't notice like the end of your session. You don't notice these drop-offs in energy, which, by the way, to fix that, the first thing you want to do, you need to be having cyclic dextrin. If you're not having cyclic dextrin in a deficit, then that's a silly thing to do, because as you get leaner, you're going to flatten off quicker. You want a nice releasing, quick, fast-paced releasing carbohydrate that digests very, very easily when you're training to keep you full for longer. It's a game changer, okay? So I'm a little bit distracted. So I should throw that away. 1 sec. So yeah, where was I at? Yeah, you lose performance as you go through the session, right? When you're in a deficit. When you get further, when you get flatter. So when you feel you're getting more depleted, you might notice that quality drop off a little bit more. This is where you need to think, okay, I'm doing 4 sets within this exercise right now, like maybe I don't know, bicep curls, you're doing 4 sets. Let's go even more extreme. So let's say it's single arm, you're doing 4 sets, single arms, 8 sets. If I did 3 with more rest, would I be able to, firstly, utilize glycogen more efficiently? So I'm not rushing through, I'm not doing loads and loads of reps that are not close to failure. So like the effective reps that are close to failure are the stimulatory reps for muscle growth. So if you're doing loads of junk volume, that's a waste. So that's where you need to think, okay, actually, maybe I'll just do 3 sets instead of 4 and think about keeping that quality as high as I can. That's the main thing you want to think about, okay? So can I just be more efficient at the work that I'm doing to keep performance high, okay? That will also see you keep freshness within that session itself into the next week, which sounds a bit weird, like how do I explain that? But you'll notice that if you do less work in a session compared to the previous, that might make you actually keep fresher within that session. So every week you can keep the efficiency high, the quality is better across the session, you're not rushing through it basically, and you're preserving performance more, okay? So you'll know if you take a set away at the right time if your performance goes up. If you take a set away and your performance goes down still, you didn't need to do it. The problem isn't the volume, it's how you're executing the movement, or you're just running into the ground, okay? But if you do it at the right time, you should see that sign. So you've basically got to put it simply, you go into the deficit, stick at your usual volume with your isolations, okay? And then give it time, keep pushing, keep trying to maintain your volume, and then once you see those slight drop-offs at the back in the session and the quality doesn't feel as good, then you can take a set away. Here and there, be selective. Use your tools efficiently, all right? If you take away 5 sets from the session all at once, what are you going to do? Like, you don't have much you can tap into there. So, for example, my tricep pushdowns, you'll notice at the end of the session, they felt amazing. I used to do 4 sets and then I went down to 3 and now I'm doing 2. And that was across the whole prep so far. It's not going to go any lower, it won't need to, but it slowly got to that more appropriate position for me. And through doing that, it just slowly allowed performance to hold over time. If I just take those sets away straight away, arguably it's not, I think it's good to pace it. That's just how I see it. Like, it just makes more sense in my head. And yeah, so that's how you want to approach the isolations in terms of just taking sets away. The other thing you could do is Mario sets. Mario sets are great because they goes back to that point about like wasted reps. Like, you know, if you're doing a 15 rep set, the first 5, are they creating stimulus? Not really, all right? So a Mario set is when you take a set to failure, you take 15, 20 seconds rest. You do the same weight again, and you keep taking the 15 to 20 second breaks until you hit the same amount of reps as the first set. So basically what happens is it forces you to keep being very close to failure for the same amount of times almost. You're still getting the effective reps from maybe 4 sets of 15 to 20 reps. Even if the reps drop off, you're just doing the ones that hurt and stimulate the muscle. So it's a very time efficient and useful way of using glycogen well, okay? So that's for isolations. When you're thinking about compound lifts further into prep, I think this is where like you really need to think about, you know, just taking your time and not rushing through it, using your warm-ups well, and just really keeping that quality high. The biggest thing that will be holding you back more is the way you execute those movements, as opposed to you doing too much. Like, you just need to focus on that ownership as much as you can. And I think that's why less is more, because if you have one set on a leg press or a deadlift or whatever, how are you going to approach that set? Very well. You're going to try and get as much from it as you can. Like, you're going to try and have as much possible ownership as you can through the movement. If you had 4 sets, you're not going to care as much. You don't have that just one opportunity. You have many opportunities. And those many opportunities might push in your subconscious brain a bit of complacency. You might just, you know, rush into it and not keep the quality where it needs to be and keep the sets as productive as they could be. So yeah, less work, more quality is absolutely key on those bigger lifts. Again, use your resources well, take the sets away over time to allow you to be more efficient. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Right, so we'll have a bit of a break and I'll return to points about volume. But given I'm making this meal, I thought I'd just say what I'm making. We've got 250 grams of yogurt. We're gonna add, because ideally, when this video is done, my meal's ready. But at this rate, I'm gonna finish the video and then I've got to make the meal still. New Perform Whey. I don't even know how to say that. Baklava. Actually, it's probably just, yeah, realistically. It's like some sort of pastry, but it just looks pretty weird. But it tastes like almond, which I love, like marzipan sort of flavour. I like it a lot. It's really, really nice. Very, very good. Right now, my favourite ways are either Perform or Naughty Boy. But they mix a bit differently. So I find like Perform bulks it out a bit more, whereas Naughty Boy kind of is a little bit more liquidy, but they both mix really, really well. So when you're dieting like I am, the Perform is a little bit nicer, I think, because it just thickens it up. So it just feels like I'm eating a bit more. Yeah, whey in Greek yogurt is a staple, so just 10 grams of whey is enough. It's like my favourite meal 5. It's just an easy thing to eat before bed. I don't like having something savoury before bed, like this is much nicer. And I mix it a lot, so apologies for the boring clip of me just doing this for ages and ages. You just can't have it powdery. If I have a taste and I can taste powder, it's not good. Next, peanut butter, which is where so going back to volume, the next thing I wanted to mention is like, when would you deload? So when would we actually like actively reduce your training volume as a way to get fresh to then push on more with training? So do you need to deload with more food? Is up for debate. One would think if your stimulus is going down and you're in a deficit, you could lose muscle, but you've got to think about the other side of that argument. Like if you're scared about deloading when you're in a deficit, the extra freshness from deloading when you're in a deficit means your training is going to get better the week after in a deficit anyway, okay? So you're not going to lose muscle because your physique is a reflection of kind of trends with training performance. So if you get fresher and then training gets really good the week after, you're going to get back to kind of the positive look in your physique you're going to have. So I don't think you need to worry too much about that. But I think, by the way, me licking the spoon is because it's under, don't worry. I do think doing a deload with a diet break is a phenomenal thing to do. So when I like to deload, and when I talk about deload, reduce your training volume. So typically half your training volume in your session. So literally reduce your training volume by half and avoid going to failure. Just get fresh. Don't focus on doing two things at once. Like if you're trying to get fresh, actively try and get fresh. Like actually do it with a bit of assertiveness so you do it the right way and you don't have to do another one for ages. And then do it when the client needs more food. So if you need a high day and you're maybe like 10 weeks into your meso, you know that training fatigue is also quite high. There's a sign to use both together because they both work very well together. Like you're gonna feel so fresh coming out of that. It's such an efficient process. It's like both support one another in a way. A fresher physique uses carbs more efficiently, and the fuller physique is gonna sleep better and deal with stress better. So you're gonna get fresher in that way as well. So it is a very useful thing to do together for sure. But one thing I would say is, and this is what people forget or not really think about. Let's say you're used to like every 6 weeks, I will, how long is that for 2 minutes? So every 6 to 8 weeks I deload. So in my growing phase, every 6 to 8 weeks I need to deload. If you go into prep and have that same mentality, it's wrong. You're not gonna need to deload as frequently. Retention is a lot of an easier process, like it is. How do you feel when you get 6 hours sleep and all you've done for the whole week is retain your performance? You don't feel that bad. Like when you're in a growing phase, well, this is my experience at least. If I have 6 hours sleep and I just went and did an all-time PR on like 5 different movements the day before, I will feel fucked. I would feel absolutely buried. Like I would not handle that. And that's because training fatigue is just building up quicker when you're progressing versus retaining. So you can go for longer. So let's say you're doing a 25-week prep. You could deload halfway through prep and then you could maybe deload in peak week. So you could literally deload with a diet break halfway through prep, and then you can know your next deload is going to be peak week when you really want to get fresh to fill up. So that's one way to think about when to reduce your training volume for a week. So yeah, just to be clear, like this is talking about reducing training volume for a whole week to get fresh to then go back to full volume training versus like reducing your training volume within your consistent training plan. So it's two different things really. Yeah. But yeah, the main point we'll talk about is like the main thing you need to think about with training volume is like what exercise and how much volume is taken away from other things. So if something bleeds over into another exercise and reduces the quality, you need to think maybe take that away so I can get more here. And it's just like we're just trying to like align things up. That's how you need to see it. Like we're trying to get the perfect combination of everything at once. So if you feel like you're doing more of one thing but that feels okay, but then everything feels awful because of it, that's where something will need to eventually shift. So yeah. So that's sorted. 250 grams of yogurt, 10 grams whey, 20 grams nut butter. What do I have with it? Berries. That's my alarm. So the videos must have stopped. But yeah, so we're gonna have 100 grams of berries, 20 grams of dark chocolate. I like to basically just place, oh my God, that was very loud. Oh yeah, I haven't addressed, but this is my new flat. Yeah, different location, because I moved. It's much nicer. This is a kitchen and I have a living room and a study. So it's a good upgrade, it's nice. But yeah, so 100 grams of berries, This is turning into a full day of eating, but no, an evening of eating. And the final thing I'm gonna have, which is the best thing, 100%. Where is it? If you're from the UK, this dark chocolate is hands down the best. Nothing beats it for me. So 20 grams of this, and that is the meal sorted. Oh, perfect, bang on. Right, so that is the meal, just so you see, if you're interested. Varies. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my insights in training volume. This has just been a bit of a chat. That's kind of what I wanted to do, is just film and then just talk for a bit. Yeah, people might think I'm copying AJ because this is what he does, but I love his videos, and he talks in the kitchen and just talks about stuff. And I thought, well, I love watching his content like that, so why not kind of make some content like this, because I'm sure people will love it. And yeah, it's very easy to film as well, so it makes sense. So yeah, hopefully people enjoyed that. I think I get so many questions all the time about training volume, like all the time. It's a very specific thing. Like everything I just explained is about your own process and adapting around it. It's not like, and this is what people make the error of, it's not like, oh yeah, you should do 10 sets on quads a week. You should do, I don't know, 5 sets on arms a week, or whatever it may be. It's just a very person-dependent process, and a dynamic process that changes along the way. And you have to be good at analyzing data and making informed decisions for you. Auto-regulate, you know? And this is where, when you're with a coach, you know, with my clients, the check-in process has these questions every week. How is your recovery? How is your performance? Any list you don't connect with, if something needs to change, we'll change it. And it's about identifying it and then adjusting along the way instead of being fixed. That's what's going to get the best out of you. You're always going to change over time. So it's dynamic, respond to your body changing over time because it's in a different physiological state. But yeah, training volume. It's like a pretty dull but important topic, I think, because everyone wants to talk about it and ask questions about it. So hopefully that was useful. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed the push clips. Watching me train push. It was a really good session. And yeah, going to keep the content coming. Many more clips to film and sessions to film and more posing as we get further and further along through prep. Is flying by. I can't really believe how quick it's going. Before I know it, I'm going to be really, really kind of, what's the word? I don't know, nostalgic on prep. It's just, you don't, this is what I'm trying to be, just present in the moment, because when you're in prep, you think about the off season and I don't know, feeling strong in the gym, and then you're out of prep and you look back and you want to be in prep. And I just want to really enjoy this moment, because you only get one pro debut. You only get one pro debut, you know? And I really want it to be a good one. That's why I took 2 years off. I never wanted to just step on stage and just be like, oh yeah, 6th in my pro class. Fuck that. I wanted to be like, this is the moment that I do my pro debut, so it's coming. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you soon. Like the video, subscribe, all that stuff, all the usual stuff. See you soon.